Oh, it's opening weekend at Keeneland. We are going to talk about Saturday, April the 6th, and an all-stakes pick five. The we is me, Gino Bacola, my good friend Barry Spears, and we will be looking at the daily racing form past performances. You can get past performances all throughout the spring meet at Keeneland. They have a section entirely dedicated to Keeneland with past performances, picks. It's got all the handicapping products that you need. And then it's just got like entries, results, a stake schedule. It has links to all the news and articles in one spot that have anything to do with Keeneland. So if you're someone who's paying attention and playing those races day in and day out, you're going to want to check in to DRF to keep you updated. I check in with my good friend, Barry Spears, the sniper. How we doing today, buddy?
Hey, man. Keeneland is on the doorstep. I am excited. I can't wait. Let's get this action going, man.
Just a heads up for everyone. I am recording at mom and dad's today, so my setup's a little different. If it does sounds a little off or not quite up to speed, that is the reason why. But hey, thanks to mom and dad, and I'm glad that I have actually had a place where I can call an audible come down to if I needed when the power was out today at my spot. But we are going to preview the all graded stakes pick five coming up at Keeneland on Saturday. Barry and I are recording this on Thursday, so we haven't even seen racing from Keeneland yet. But if you do want help with the Friday card, we've already got you covered. We took care of the late pick five on Friday. We put a video out on Wednesday. So if you follow on social media or if you subscribe to the That's What G Said podcast, you will have that for you. You can watch it on video or you can check out the audio there. Barry, my friend, always challenging races, and this is fun because we have 3 Kentucky Derby prep races on Saturday, and the pick five that we're going to look at ends with the Bluegrass. So we have strong fields, good quality horses, but also an interesting race for, those of us who are going to be watching and playing the Derby and, the big races. We've been following a lot of these horses, and this weekend, it's the last big weekend, the last 3 big points races. And so the last chance for all these horses to get their points to get in.
Yeah, it's a do or die time.
Mm-hmm.
It should be an exciting weekend across the country, and particularly at Keeneland because all the races, all the people, all the big fields, and hopefully all the prices to match, and hopefully we can make it a winning weekend.
Okay, let's jump on in where the all graded stakes pick five starts, and that's in race number 6. It is the grade 3 Commonwealth. And in this one, Barry, just sort of from a starting point and a talking point, you do have a couple horses who have been in good form as of late, but there's nobody in here that has an overwhelmingly terrifying resume that seems like a real standout. On the morning line, I think the outside horse Minnesota Ready, just coming off that big performance and the 102 Beyer speed figure last time out, will likely get some money, and that was first time in the Amos barn. But I also think many horses in here will sort of separate the betting. I don't know if there's going to be an overwhelming horse. Do you think that's the case in this race?
No. Everybody kind of on paper looks very competitive and similar in this spot. It's just kind of comes down to trips and preference as far as your betting, and then the value and odds will probably overrule most of that in this kind of scenario.
So I'm going to start with a horse who shout out to Hustle on Netflix. Great movie with Adam Sandler. And the star of that movie is named Bo Cruz. Bo Cruz is a horse who's one that you just follow through his entire career, Barry. And I kept repeating this when I was talking with our buddy Matty DeSantis earlier about the Aqueduct races. I like horses that are like this where all of their races make sense. You can go race by race and you can see what's happened in each of them. His career debut, he's a good second that day. He comes back in his second start. He crushes, wins by 12. Then in his third start, comes back and he wins again. He's in the Matt win. He finishes a fine third that day behind 2 nice horses, Disarm and Verifying. And then he's in the Iowa Derby. He was actually the heavy favorite that day. And something went wrong physically because he's off from July all the way to the start of this year. And when he shows back up this year at Fairgrounds on February the 12th, He gets bumped around a little bit at the start, but he settled inside. He was fourth. He's about 3 lengths off, and he's waiting and he's waiting, and he wanted to go, and he just gets pinned with nowhere, no room. He has to kind of back out of it, and he has to come, and he comes on again, and he just misses that day. He finishes third. I thought it was a really good effort for your first start off the bench. And if you just toss the race that sent him to the bench, his form all makes sense. He has some speed. I like the fact that I saw that he can sit off and pass horses. I think this cutback should be really nice for him. So as a horse that's a one I'm going to throw in the pick 5 for sure is going to be Bo Cruz. I don't know what price to expect from him. And I think we were talking a little bit about this on the show yesterday. The first few days in particular, it's probably going to be hard with some of these horses and the prices of them because they're coming from different spots. Like, I don't envy making a morning line for a place like Keeneland. It's really difficult to have horses from all over different places, and then you get some steam on one horse. But I'm not sure this horse is going to be 12-1.
Yeah, it doesn't look like this horse will be 12-1. I mean, he really only ran one quote unquote bad race. Obviously, like you said, something went amiss. I just, I think the price on this horse will probably stay a little bit on the higher side, towards that morning line because of the fact that he really doesn't have too many kind of sprint races on his resume. And, even though he is cutting back, and that's a move that we tend to kind of value, other people may not. And I think his price, he's probably going to be lower than 12-1, but not too much lower. And
Eight-ish.
I think, yeah, and I think that's a good price in a race like this. He merits a really good shot.
Give me some of the players, horses that are on your radar.
Hear Me Song is probably the horse I like the best in this spot.
Yep, last year's winner.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons why I think he's coming into the race in the same fashion. He used the Big Daddy at Turfway as a prep for this, doing the same thing this year. I think the fact that he doesn't have too many races coming into this, event is probably better than what he did last year. He almost, if you look at the past performance, almost ran the identical line in the Big Daddy. So I expect the same sort of outcome. Alex Achard is there.
And
I
he had
think
a
this horse,
legitimate excuse. He got a
yeah,
bad start. He was 8th of 8th. He was 7 lengths off. He tried to get going late on the outside. He just had too much to do. But when you're watching it, he is getting going, and you're seeing it, and it should set him up beautifully for this race, just like it did last time. I completely agreed with you. The 6 and the 7 were my top 2 horses in here, looking at as far as the prices they may be for their chances of winning. I like them in this spot. Give me some others that might be on your radar.
The only other horse that kind of caught my attention is Wyco, the 2.
Yep, that's the same one for me. Yeah.
And he has a lot of speed. He's definitely on the improve. He's a 4-year-old lightly raced. I don't think synthetic is really what he wants to do anyway. And that looks like a total prep for this race. And honestly, there's not really too much speed in here. And this horse is going to be okay. Getting position early from sort of the inside and being able to kind of get first run. It might be the winning move. I just don't know what kind of price you're going to get because there is situations where this horse might be favored. Obviously, the connections is the major factor. You're getting Irad and Wesley Ward who kind of dominate a lot of things, especially at Keeneland. Rather than a horse like Minnesota Ready, who's morning line favorite, but doesn't look all that great in a race like this because of the running style in the post.
So Wyco, I completely agree. Second off, he probably just needed that race. Has speed, but can sit, which is a positive. So could get that trip just like he got on October the 8th at Keeneland, right here, going 7 furlongs, right? Sitting just off, move to the lead, get the jump on some of the others in here. I had 2, 6, 7 as kind of my top tier of horses. We talked about the 9, and my issues with the 9 are that the last 2 races of his that are the bet are good. His biggest speed figure races, most recently, are both sloppy track races.
Yep.
So it's not that he is only a sloppy track horse. Like, he's been fine on fast tracks, but those races do stand out a little bit because those are races where he may like it more and others don't like it more. So that's where he gets separation. So if it was sloppy, I would want to upgrade him a little bit because I think he may be able to take advantage of that situation. But I mean, I don't.
Also, the distance with Minnesota Ready has to be kind of a question. I know he ran okay at 6.5. That was at a lower class level, and he kind of ran okay at 7 recently, but I'm not sold that this is the best trip for him.
No. But it's a fun race because there is just no real standout here. Even with the course like the 8, Call Me Fast. If you can, like, he just has looks to me like he's going to need a race or so.
Need one,
but his
right.
form last year was not bad at all throughout
he's
2023.
formidable. Yeah, he's definitely a good horse. Sure.
Like, he actually does have a win at 7 at Keeneland, and I think that's why they put him in this spot, because on paper it does sort of look like maybe they're prepping for a longer race because he was taking shots in longer races last year, but he has done very well going 7 at Keeneland. So you can understand why they say, hey, if we have to start somewhere, let's start in a spot where he's gotten this trip. And maybe we can get him back and, run another race at Keeneland here because he's run some of his better races here. So maybe they can get 2 races out of him in the meet.
Right. Makes perfect sense. Especially if they're looking further down the road, they might want to cash your check here and then really, have the race that they have their sights on later on in the meet.
Yeah, or think about the timing too, right? This could be try to get this race here, see how well you do, and then Oaks Derby weekend, you have a lot of the prep races, right? You could run in one of those, which the timing for a lot of these horses in the undercard races would fit really well. The Raise Kane is another who I would like for him with his running style. I would like to see a race. I wish he had a more recent race than 3 full months off coming into this. He's one where he gets the kind of trip. Sure, he's not as tactical though as some of the others. He doesn't have quite as much early speed, so that could hinder him. And if he is a shortish price, I would like others more.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I'm not really sold on this horse getting this race off of that kind of layoff when it just seems like 7 furlongs isn't really his ideal distance. Probably looking for something better down the road, and that's how I'm gonna kind of look at this event and that horse being in it. I hope he takes a lot of money personally, because I'm probably gonna try to fade him. To the likes of the 7 Hear Me Song, but he's definitely, you gotta respect him because he's run
capable
well.
of winning,
Right?
But I think his price will be shorter than he should be in this spot.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's keep rolling along. Where do we go next? The Grade 2 Appalachian. We are going a mile on the turf. 3-year-old fillies. But Slim, what if you win? Wouldn't it be weird? Why? So you guys could just lie to get me here. So every time I've looked at this, I've been thinking a different Slim Eminem song. Even just when I look through it in the past performances. So where are you looking to start in this one, my friend? Going a mile on the grass.
Yeah, I think this race is a little bit wide open. Kind of a spread race for me. If I had to pick a top choice, I would say I would go to Austere, who probably needed that race in the Florida Oaks. Waskasu was pretty good that day. This horse took quite a bit of money and just ran like a horse that looked like he needed this race, or she needed the race. And I think this is a better setup. This is a better, easier field for her to kind of do her thing. And although there isn't much speed, I don't think this horse needs to be too far out of it to make a good run.
No, she was down inside last time out. She was only about 4 lengths off, but she was 7th. And she lost a little bit of ground. Then she re-engaged and she just got caught in traffic. She was waiting. She was really wanting to go. She started to move very, very well, but she got pinned in and she was behind traffic. She wasn't going to win that day. Waskaisu was the best. She absolutely could have finished second in a close finish where Waskaisu was a length better than everybody else. And So if if she finishes second that day, that just on paper looks so much better than fifth. This horse was only beaten 2 lengths in the Breeders' Cup. She's a nice filly, and this feels like a really good spot for her. She actually finished in the Breeders' Cup right in front of Buchu. They were 5th and 6th that day, and they both didn't have the – Buchu had a little bit of traffic. She was inside, but this is a barn that's actually been really good with horses coming off of this type of a freshening. Not a long layoff, but that in-between layoff here of 61 to 180 days. They've actually won with 5 of their last 11, which is a monster number. So I'm not quite as concerned with her maybe needing a race because she's run well at Keeneland. Her running style won't make her have to work hard throughout. She can sit sort of mid-pack to the back of the mid-pack and then press the button. The 6 and the 10, I think, were the 2 or the 6 and the 9 were the 2 I wanted to start with for me that maybe could beat Pounce, who's been very, very impressive so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this race is pretty deep. The one thing about Austere that I also like is the 2 workouts since the Florida Oaks race. One was really fast, and then the other was sort of a maintenance work.
Yep.
But sets this one up really, really good on Saturday. Pounce, to me, is definitely the horse to beat, but isn't overwhelming by any means.
And
kind of looks
post.
the same, and a tough post from the outside, which is definitely an obstacle, especially on that turf course at Keeneland. Poolside with Slim is very interesting to me because kind of looks like lone speed on paper.
If they want it, I think it's theirs.
Oh, they're going to go, because I had a question mark going into the Florida Oaks what this horse was actually going to do off of those 2 synthetic efforts. And I don't know really if it was the function of them being on the rail that they just said, all right, well, we got to go. That situation has come up again. And it actually is probably more to this horse's benefit after having that run in the Florida Oaks. That experience is probably going to go a long way. And I think this horse is going to take him a long way, and it probably at a decent price, because the horse really doesn't have any turf form other than that last race, which I think was pretty good considering it was her first race in the graded company after a maiden win. There's definitely improvement on her.
I mean, she was in front of Austere, right?
Mm-hmm.
The horse that we're talking about and the horse that we like and some of them. And you're completely right. She's a pick 4, pick 5 horse.
Yep.
To throw in because she's the type of horse who, if a couple others go quick, or maybe she's not quite as good if some of the others sit close enough to her, but there are absolutely versions of this race where she's alone on the lead or able to sit really close, get the jump on some of the others. And so at her price, with the possibilities of that happening, these are the types of horses you're looking to use in a pick 4 and a pick 5.
Yeah, because they're going to be slightly overlooked. They're not going to be favorites, and usually horses like that, if you can get around favorites in multis, more than once in a sequence, you're probably going to get paid for your opinion.
You catch 2 of these horses in a sequence, and you're fine. Any pick 4 or pick 5, right? These types of horses, and those are the types we're looking for. And one more that I wanted to mention, I guess the 3. Dancing in Dixie's a bit interesting. You look at her prices in the last 2 races and you'll say
68 to 1.
Wow, she just can't fit here. But then you watch the races. She wasn't beaten all that much in the Ozara, Life's Inaudible, Waskaisu race. And then Waskaisu came back again and beat her. And she was in that same Florida Oaks with a lot of these. And she actually outfinished some of these same rivals in here. And I feel like she's going to just get dismissed again. And people are going to look at her and think, she, it was a big price in her last few. But she does fit with this group. She proved it in that race last time out and against the form she's faced in her last 2. So she was one. And then the 5's just a total wild card. The horse who had 2 good grass races sprinting, then tried the synthetic, didn't fire. That was in Ireland. Now comes over here for a barn that had a really nice year last year and a very, very capable barn. And obviously Irad jumps aboard. So it's not to me that she can't win. I do just think she could get a little over bet in here. And I wouldn't be shocked to see her with like a good underneath effort, second, third, fourth, a little bit short, and step forward, second off the bench. And so I'm going to be watching her price.
Yeah, definitely. The one other horse that I'd like to mention would be the 12 Crown Imperial. I know the
Sure.
post is not much to work with, but these kind of races get a little wonky at times, with these young fillies, and it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that a horse like Crown Imperial can win coming off the pace. Definitely ran a great race, first time off the bench in 2024 in the Here Comes the Bride at Gulfstream, and it's one of those angles that we always talk about that I love. Horse comes back running. This one did the same thing, and I expect an improved effort within the next couple races for this horse. Why not in this spot at a decent price?
She has enough versatility to her from the outside that you could see her figuring out different trips from out there,
Sure.
which is what you like, right? She had in some of her earlier races, she showed some tactical speed sprinting. She's been taken back a little bit more. So if they just get out of the gate, what's going to happen early? Okay, a bunch of these horses are going to go inside of me. Let's back up so we don't have to get wide and just try to close late. If not, hey, we can sit third or fourth in here. That's something we've shown that we could do against quicker horses. So I have no problem including her in some spots at a very fair price in a really challenging stakes race number 7. So this is the second leg of the pick 5, and this one actually kicks off an all stakes pick 4 if you'd prefer just playing the pick 4. We generally jump in the pick 5s because they have a lower takeout. They're a better bet for you to play longer terms.
Sure.
If you're someone that's playing each and every day, just get more of your money back for your wager. Let's go to the grade 1 Madison. We'll go 7 furlongs on the dirt. These are filly and mare sprinters, where you have some real quality horses in here. The number 2, Red Carpet Ready, has done very little wrong in her career. She's just had a problem stringing races together. And if she can do that this year, she could be a really nice filly and mare sprinter. The others in here that will be very tough. The 6, Alva Star. She is very quick. She's never been worse than second. She does seem like 7 furlongs might be
a
little,
stretch. Yes.
right? Like a little beyond her best. So it's not that she can't get it under the right circumstances, but she's only been it once. She lost that day as the heavy favorite. So you will definitely question it with a horse like Alva Star. And then you've got Vava, who was the one that beat her in the Raven Run last year. And Vava got really good towards the end of last year. And she is a profile overall that makes complete sense. She was good early. They wanted to try to stretch her out to see, is she the type of filly that could be a Kentucky Oaks filly? She ran in the Intappable. She ran in the Rachel Alexandra. She didn't run that poorly in those races. It just looked like the distance was too far for her. And oh yeah, she lost twice to the Kentucky Oaks winner in those races. Then they cut her back, and look what happens. Runner-up effort against a next out winner, Positano Sunset. She comes back. She wins a race, beats a nice horse named Undervalued Asset, going 6.5. Then she goes into stakes company in the Victory Ride. She's third in a good race behind Rest in Peace Maple Leaf Mel. And then she steps up and wins back-to-back graded stakes races. And she was ascending. She was supposed to go to the La Brea at Santa Anita on December the 26th. But there was a bunch of travel issues with horses that were in the Midwest, and they couldn't get over there. So a lot of horses that were supposed to run in some of those races didn't make it. And I think she was one of them. At that point, it was the end of the year. I think they just said, okay, we're going to pack it up and focus on next year. And, we'll get started and have a game plan. And she's a nice filly, man. There's a couple really nice fillies in this race.
Yeah. I have trouble trying to envisioning what kind of trip she's actually going to get, because
this feels like a total need the race though for her. It does.
Yes,
to me.
absolutely. And the post doesn't help do her any favors either, because it's kind of, we got to either go or kind of drop back. And I don't think either of those scenarios are good for her in this spot. So I'm going to probably try to fade her. Although the horse I kind of do like quite a bit, Mary Quite Contrary,
Oh, me
has a
too.
similar style, but has a recency edge on a lot of these horses. And I think
Yes.
that might make the difference, especially with Alva Star. There's that kind of inkling of a question that she might not be able to get that 7 furlong, especially since what I think this pace is going to be pretty strong, and I don't think Alvastar is going to get that easy of a lead, especially with red carpet ready. I don't think Louis Sai is going to let that one get too far, pressing the pace, hot and sultry. Probably doesn't want to go this far. I would like to see this horse really get on the engine and get in Alvastar's way. Even Big Pond, who's 20-1 on the morning line, which doesn't seem likely, will be forcing the issue up front. And
Yep.
although Keeneland isn't the best place to get closers, I think this race sets up a little bit for Mary Quite Contrary to run a big race.
We've been talking a lot lately because it's funny. My notes were on Mary Quite Contrary, where she's honest. She likes these trip. And if Vava is a little bit fresh or a little bit short, she's going to be the one with that running style that benefits. And
Mm-hmm.
she may not be a grade one, quite grade one type. She was second last year in this race to Goodnight Olive and ran a
Yeah,
really
and
good race.
the thing about that is that one was off the bench from a layoff, so basically from February to April. This year, she ran a 1 mile race to start the campaign back on December 30th. Ran in the inside information at 7 furlongs. Didn't run that badly, and the
And
pace.
the way that race shaped up, yeah, Olivia Darling won that race, and she just kind of sat right off and like fell into a really good trip that day.
Yeah, and honestly, kind of got the jump on Mary Quite Contrary, which
Absolutely.
does happen. But I don't think she was ready for that race. Then they send her long, going a mile in the 16th, which is probably out of her scope, back to the drop down. And I think this drop and the fitness that she got out of those races make her tough in here.
Me too. It should set up very nicely for her. I think you want to use Mary Quite Contrary in all spots. The horse that I do think might have a tough trip in here, but I really do. She has adapted to trips like this, and she's fast enough where she could. I could see her being a real stubborn foe to Alva Star. If Alva Star crosses over and red carpet ready sits right behind her, she might be able to get a nice jump on some of the deeper closers and fall into it. I love the fact that she has the race under her. When I'm looking at her and Vava and the two of them, I prefer her over Vava because she has the recent race and she has a little more she's a little faster naturally. She can get into the race and have to battle a little bit, and I don't know if it's going to take as much out of her, or she can maybe hang around and still fall into a good spot. So I'm going to be using her with Mary Contrary for sure, and then kind of trying to figure out who amongst some of the others I'm going to use. Who else do you want to mention in here?
Yeah, the one Sterling Silver is interesting to me. That this horse
Yep.
came back running on March 9th on Tampa Derby Day and ran a bang up race. The only problem is the post and her running style. She might get a little bit too far back and get shuffled back and catch a lot of dirt, which might
But
not
she
be
can pass
ideal.
horses.
Yes, and that's the
Which
thing is she could definitely pick a spot and go right at it. Castellano's definitely good at doing these kind of things. Um, before she went to the bench in 2023, she kind of put together a couple good wins. One in the Gallup Bloom, and then another at Aqueduct as well in the Iroquois for state breds, and then sort of tailed off. So that was a good starting off point. And I think she's probably coming into form, and this might be a good race and a horse that might be flying under the radar.
you go through her last 5 or 6, right? You can eliminate the race behind Echo Zulu and Goodnight
Right, who
Olive.
nobody was beating.
And then she comes back, and those two races in a row absolutely compete with this group. That Gallant Bloom and the Iroquois. They try her on the turf, then she's off, and she's now making her second start back. And, you know, maybe the race doesn't shape up this way, but there is at least a version of this race where Red Carpet Ready is aggressive from down on the inside. Hot and Sultry is aggressive. Isocles is not really wanting to sit. They're going to be aggressive. Alva Star is definitely going to go. Pratt does not want to let Alva Star get too far away. He's really good at that, knowing not to let the other speeds get away. And then Vava maybe a little bit fresh or maybe a little bit short. So you go through those horses and you say, okay, all of those horses in at least this running of the race could have trouble. Who does that leave as the horses that would benefit? Mary Quite Contrary and the one, Sterling Silver. You know, so you don't have to do that much talking to really get yourself into thinking these horses could figure in here.
Yeah, this is a tough race. I mean, the field isn't too large, but man, there's a lot of things going on, and it can
Some
go a
variables.
lot of different directions. So, you know, races like this, typically you would want to take a stand, but if not, you might find an opportunity to do that later on.
Let's continue to race number 9. This is on the turf, 5.5 furlongs. It's the Grade 2 Shakertown. And just at first glance, for this type of a race, there is not that much early speed, right? And at all. You go through this field, and these are horses that are going 5.5 furlongs. So you're expecting there to be a lot of horses with early speed. And going up and down the field, so few of them have been recently on the lead in their sprint races until you start to get to the outside. And you see the couple horses that came from Gulfstream Park. And I think that Silk's Run race is very live in here, Barry, that prep from Gulfstream, because even a horse like Yes, I'm Free, who's 8 years old now, from the outside, they have no choice. They're just going to go as fast as they can, try to clear and get over. And right next door to them, Coppola is going to probably have to do the same sort of thing. Try to get as good of a position as possible. He has a little more versatility to him. I've tried to beat him a couple times. He's in really good form right now. He's won in like different ways. In the last 4 races, 3 of them have been really different types of wins. And so no, those two don't have great posts out there. I think they could get really nice trips if they're just used early and then clear the field.
Yeah, I tend to think that Yes, I'm Free might be loose on the lead here.
Yeah.
The old man, they're going to have a tough time, and I don't think they really need to use this horse all that much to get to the front. And if, you know, this horse doesn't really like this distance too much, you know, you can see the 5.5s on the page aren't the greatest, but with this kind of setup where the horse probably doesn't have to be all out, you know, from the jump, this is a huge pace advantage, I think. And I like Yes, I Am Free quite a bit here. Coppola is another one. Yeah, Coppola is another one on the radar that's, like you said, in razor sharp form, has enough speed to be in the picture early. And I think Panther Island, the stablemate of the 12, Yes, I Am Free, will also be vying for that same kind of position early. So it could be a situation where, you know, that barn could run 1-2.
That I really did think that was a race you have to take a couple of those horses out of, and especially the 12, where just from the outside, sending hard from out there, these other 2 horses who don't have to be too far out of it, because that's all I was looking for in this race. I wasn't really wanting some of the deep closers, even though some of those are nice horses. I was just worried about their chances in here. I made a case for the 3 and the 4. The 3 just based on class and ability, like Mischief Magic, who has the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint win here, and then did get a nice sort of good, like nice couple of races last time out to get this one into good form for here. The 4 Beer Can Man, he doesn't have to be that far back either. He's come out of some quick races recently, and he could be a little fresh in here. And Pratt does a great job with this, knowing speed, knowing when to press the button, knowing when, if it's a race where he needs to go a little more early. I wouldn't be shocked to see this horse run a big race off the bench here, just the way the race shapes up.
Yeah, the thing about Beer Can Man is he kind of tailed off, towards the end of last year. And I don't know where he could sit here. I know his last races, he was kind of out on the outside and didn't really get ideal trips, especially in
Mm-hmm.
the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Um, like you said, I mean, he's has past races that would certainly win this one. I just haven't seen it in a while, so
In a
you got to
while. So you need a price.
demand your
You,
price here,
you got to
and
get it.
yeah, because a lot of the Southern Cal horses that go east is not usually their forte. Although D'Amato is probably the only one that does this
Turf
maneuver
wise,
regularly.
a few of them
Right.
only, yeah, on the grass you'd even give a look to.
So you definitely have to look twice at a horse like Beer Can Man, and beyond that, it's going to be tough. I think Mischief Magic in that uh 2 years ago Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf
Was
Sprint
way out of it.
got perfect trip, really. I mean, he didn't get the best of starts, and then came flying in the end, and what kind of won going away. I don't think that's going to happen because of the pace situation. This one's going to be up against it. The horse doesn't really break all that well anyway, and would need a lightning fast pace that I don't think he's going to get on Saturday.
Race number 9, a sprint on the turf that doesn't look like your normal turf sprint, at least on paper. We'll see if that's how it plays out on Saturday as we move to the feature. This one is the Grade 1 Bluegrass. Kentucky Derby points are on the line, and some quality horses in here. From the point of the Remsen last year, where Dornick wins and Sierra Leone was second, those two have been two of the top 3 to 5 in this division since. And Dornick's only run once, and that's sort of the problem. Is it was in a Fountain of Youth race that got scratched down, where a few of the major players didn't end up running. So it's really hard to know what to take out of that from him. He does get knocked quite a bit. I was reading an article that Market First read earlier, and you look at his overall form, and for a horse who's done nothing wrong, everyone does want to line up and beat him and just talk about him like he's, he has no chance. And I will say all of that and preface all of that and say I'm trying to beat him really in here too. I mean, I just like others a little more in the spot, but certainly from a talking point, you have to start with him and Sierra Leone, who have faced off against each other in the Remsen, and Sierra Leone came back and won the Risen Star. He has a nice late closing kick, Barry. So he's impressive, but again, at Keeneland, a deep closer like this with a short stretch, he will need a little bit of pace to run at. He didn't get all that much pace and was still able to run down Track Phantom, though, in his last start. And the third place finisher, Catching Freedom, came back and won the Louisiana Derby.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to start with those two. I tend to like Dornock quite a bit in this spot, and I'll
Nice.
tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because the Remsen, first of all, is definitely a live race all the way around. People have been coming out of that race. The horses coming out of the race have been winning.
Yep.
The second reason is the Fountain of Youth. I know it was scratch laden, but the horse didn't extend himself and still won. Got a really good speed figure when you know and saw that the horse didn't extend himself. So that to me says there's still more in there. And this horse can get better. The race shape kind of sets up for Dornock rather than a horse that has to launch from way back like Sierra Leone. I would rather have the horse on the lead rather than the horse coming from behind, especially at Keeneland.
Yeah.
So you got those factors, then the steady work since the Fountain of Youth, culminating in a bullet on March 30th. So all of that kind of seems to me that this horse is probably in his best form. I don't want him to run too fast if I'm the connections, but this horse is going to give a good effort. And that's what I want to see in a race like this with these younger horses, at least some sort of predictability on how they're going to show up on the track.
The horse who I like and definitely be using and probably betting to win is the one Top Connor, who should be more like 8-1 than
Yes.
15. in here.
Yes.
So right off the bat, that's how I'm going to be looking at him. If he's above 6, I'll say that's okay for me. I'm hoping from in the 8 to 10 range, right around there. His debut race was very good. And this is a horse that they've been really high on. They obviously paid $1 million for this horse, so it's not a surprise. But he had a fast start inside, so he draws the rail again. He also won going a mile first time out of the box, which is not easy, especially on the dirt and the way that race shaped up. They went quick early, so he backed off and he sat third. And then he got shuffled back to 6th on the inside. And he came on again in between horses. He pushed his way out to the 3 path. It was pretty impressive visually. And he beat a horse named that came back named Dildrew, who came back to win a maiden special weight next out with an 87 Beyer speed figure. Military Road, who was second in that race, came back to again finish second next time out. So I think the race is live in here. He was second behind Invigorated, and you see Dildrew, who comes back, wins the maiden special weight at Gulfstream with an 87 Beyer figure that day. Strong field he beat, and they've had their opportunity to just decide where they wanted to go with him. And I think it's interesting that they pair him up with Sierra Leone because of running styles. Mm. They complement each other's running styles very well. With Sierra Leone being a horse that is going to be coming from off the pace for Chad Brown, what you have with Top Connor is a horse who's going to be much more forwardly placed. So at the very least, you should have your one horse either. I'd love for Top Connor to be sitting second or third, right? Probably right next to Dornoch. Right? Like, yeah. Maybe you let Good Money go. Maybe they go the one, Top Connor. I think he's going to be in the top 3. And I don't really think they're going to be battling each other all that much like you. I could see Just a Touch right there in the mix with them, with Giroux, or maybe he goes and they sit behind him. Right? But I don't think these horses towards the top are going to be battling. Top Connor was content with sitting last time out. To me, this is a really interesting horse in here. So pick 4s and 5s and stuff. He'll be in the mix for me. I do agree with you in that at this track, in this particular race, Dornoch is probably the horse I would prefer to Sierra Leone. And I'm almost at this second right now, I'm almost 100% that it would be completely the opposite on Derby Day. That I would prefer Sierra Leone to Dornoch in a bigger field at Churchill with a longer stretch and all of that. But in here, like, I don't think Dornoch's going to have any problem sitting off horses.
Yeah, no, I think, just his class. He'll sit third. And I think his class will dictate, his ability to kind of sit off the pace. And I think he can do it. It's just a matter of what you think, like Top Connor. I mean, there's a situation where Top Connor's on the lead very easily. Mm-hmm. And Dornoch's hitting right off his flank. Same thing with Good Money. What are they going to do with that horse? I mean, you got Chad Brown has 3 horses in this race. 2 of them are essentially speed horses.
And I don't think they'll want to battle each other.
I wouldn't think so, but you never know.
but they're different owners too, right? They're in there. If they think that that's their best, they get a good start, Just a Touch. I like that he showed he could sit last time out. I figured he would just be really aggressive. And usually that's the case with Giroux. So some interesting horses with how this pace shape could set up with those 3 to 4 horses all being possible, but not definitive on, hey, we're getting really aggressive here. What do we do with the horse that's BU?
Well, I was going to say my thought on Just a Touch is that probably that horse is probably going to be better later on in the year.
I can see
race,
that.
The Gotham, the horse kind of didn't pass anybody, but didn't really lose much ground either. Kind of like 2 lengths away from the lead the whole way around.
And just kind of held it.
It was a weird race too, because they were all on the outside. I think
it was pouring that day.
Yeah, it was nuts. And this horse ran really good considering, but I think this horse might need a little bit more seasoning and will probably want to even go longer. And honestly, the sloppy track might have helped this horse too. I want to see
this
some
horse
more
feels like a Preakness to race a horse to me. I don't know why. Just like looking at the horse's running style and just the way I could see a good effort here from him. because second or third, and then point for the Preakness.
Yep.
Instead of the
Absolutely.
Derby. Just like a lightly raced horse who could be an interesting new shooter, new face here. But he's got ability.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, look at those 2 works he's had at Keeneland. You know, this horse is definitely on the rise. It's just a matter of timing, I think. If this horse ran a couple more races, I would like him a lot better. But he's not incapable, and he could win this race
Like if I
very
were one of
easily.
I'm surprised that either Brad Cox or Brown didn't send one of these horses to Santa Anita. You know, just if you're looking for points and you're trying to get them
It's so
in,
strange why people don't ship out there
don't do
for
that
these
more.
kind of
Well,
races.
especially if you know that Nysos isn't going to run in that race. He's hurt.
Right.
He's not going to be in there. Then who else are you scared of? If you really do want to get one of your horses points, like in that race, Top Connor would be 5-2 or 3-1. He'd be the second choice.
Yeah.
The Sunland Derby winner is 5-2, and Baffert's other horse, Imagination, is like 8-5 on the morning line. Top Connor would be the third choice at worst in the Santa Anita Derby.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. I don't understand why they don't do that.
Me neither. And I guess it's if you have a horse that you don't want to have to ship all the way out there and then ship back to church. There's a lot of shipping for a young horse. Maybe some of them think their horses wouldn't do well with it. So I can understand. But even a horse like BU, if he was in that race, he would be a major player. You know, you go through his form overall. He's another one that he was really highly regarded in his debut. I think Matt, our buddy, pointed out on Twitter how this was like a real buzzy race at Saratoga with Just Steel, who we saw finish second in the Arkansas Derby. You got BU in here, locked Grade 1 winner. He was in this race. Domestic Product was in this race. Tampa Bay Derby winner. And BU was favored over all of them. He was supposed to be really good, and he ran a very good race that day. He earned an 88 Beyer speed figure in his career debut, finishing second, beating the nose. They stepped him up into the Grade 1 hopeful, which was a weird race because Nutella Fella won that at a huge price. It was a very slow race that got low speed figures all over. Then in his third start, not bad when you look and see Muth and Wind Me Up. And then he runs into Nash and Resilience. Resilience is running in the Wood Memorial. He's probably going to be the third or fourth choice in that field. He's pretty quality. He finished fourth in the fourth in the Risen Star, and he comes back again. He had a weird trip on that January 13th race. He was way out wide. He drew post 10, so it's one of those spots where he just was wide. He couldn't really get in. He was favored over Conquest Warrior that day, and you look at some of the horses in there. We were just talking about Military Road, because Top Connor.
It's tough because BU, has the talent to win races like this. He just hasn't put it all together on the track yet.
Another one that at the price that's short-ish, you never want to play him because you just can't trust that it's not going to be one of those Jekyll Hyde clunker races. I'm okay around 10-1, including him in a pick 4.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because he's definitely improving, especially after that last race. But he's still got some questions to answer.
Last thing to talk with you about.
Actually, before we stop,
yeah, go ahead.
The outside horse, Encino.
I'm going to ask you about the synthetic horses. Yep, there we go.
I kind of like that horse. Yeah, I kind of like that horse in this spot. I wish he drew a better post, but man, this horse is very talented. I think people might overlook him because he was on the synthetic, but I don't see this horse not handling the dirt. And
look at how versatile
he's
been.
Very well bred. He's been versatile. He's won on the lead. He's come and passed horses twice. It's just a matter of what kind of trip Flavian can work out. And for my money, I think Flavian's one of the best jockeys in the land, so he could do it. It's just a matter of getting the right breaks, and this is the kind of year or the kind of thing that does happen. So I wouldn't be opposed to throwing Encino on a couple of tickets.
No, for me, I was looking at him. Ugatu to me seems a little bit overmatched, and Encino and Epic Ride were the ones that were 1-2 in the Battaglia, where Epic Ride was actually favored over him off of a couple of impressive performances prior to that. And then Encino beat him that day. I do think I like Encino better of the two of them who got the better of him that day. But the race has to be mentioned that the racing at Turfway is so much better the last couple years than it was previously. So much stronger overall, much deeper overall. And last year in particular, horses exiting the Turfway races did very well when they went other places. They were fit coming off that track. And what happens a lot of times, the synthetic speed figures are just lower than dirt speed figures. So you'll have horses who probably are a little bit faster than what their speed figures say if they're on a dirt track. It's just that track doesn't go as fast or doesn't give you as like eye-opening, eye-popping, incredible off-the-chart performances. This is a good bluegrass. It really is.
It's competitive. It's not one-sided. Sometimes in these later Derby preps, you might get a horse that might be favored or looking to be favored in the Derby, and people shy away. But a lot of these races, especially this weekend, all these 3-year-old preps for the Derby are kind of wide open. I kind of zeroed in on Dornoch because he's coming out of live races. What I think is one of the better preps on the Derby trail in the Remsen, and then kind of didn't really run all that fast or overextended himself in the Fountain Youth, and I think that's going to serve him good going in, kind of going forward. He kind of saved one, if you will.
When you're looking at a prep race, or like any race in particular, but as far as Kentucky Derby prep races are concerned, this to me is about as perfect of a race as you would want. You have a couple top contenders who are established horses who we know, like Dornick, like Sierra Leone, and then you have a horse like Just a Touch who's almost in that top tier with them, a pretty talented horse. And then after that, you have some other really interesting horses, like some of the ones that we mentioned, the two to the inside, both Top Connor and BU. They're that next tier, talented horses, but haven't shown it against this level. So let's see if they can. It's a big field. And on paper, it looks like the pace should be fair. It doesn't look like there's just one lone speed horse anywhere. There's different scenarios that could happen. It's a very interesting race. And some of these prep races, they don't come up strong. So seeing one like this that comes up, quality, quantity, possible pace scenarios, like this is about as fun as you're going to get for like a Derby prep race.
Sure, absolutely. And full field, the whole nine. Man, I just can't wait to get this started.
Big weekend ahead. So if you do need some help with Friday racing, remember, Barry and I already went through the late pick 5 for Friday. So toss that on in the background on Thursday evening while you're finishing up your handicapping, and maybe we'll lead you to a horse or two in one of those races that you might not have been using. And then same thing for Saturday. Toss this on if you're doing your prep work again on Friday night once more, and maybe we'll remind you about a horse that wasn't on your radar. Barry, let all the folks know where they can find more from you going in circles and Big Mondays on a Tuesday.
Yeah, you got it. You nailed it. Big Monday that comes out really on Tuesday. Every week, me and Chuck Simon, we kind of break down the events of the week in racing industry wide. So it's more news, notes, things like that, rather than, selections. But Chuck has a wide knowledge of the industry, worked everywhere. I learn from him every day. You should definitely give it a listen because he has a ton of great stories. You can learn a lot. I learn a lot every time I'm with him. And we chop it up, and we're starting to get guests on there. So, you should check us out if you feel compelled to talk to us on Twitter. We're on there, or Twitter or X. I'm at Urban Handicapper, URBN Handicapper. All day, every day, you can hit us up. We're always willing to talk.
Pulling double duty this weekend, helping out with Friday and Saturday Keeneland. Thank you so much, my friend. You and I are going to put together one of our own little pick 5 tickets and try to nail this all stakes pick 5 on Saturday. Folks, thanks so much to all of you for hanging out with us. And anything you need this weekend from Keeneland Friday, Saturday, Aqueduct Saturday Steaks, Santa Anita Saturday Steaks, we've got that all taken care of for you on That's What G Said podcast, or if you come follow on Twitter, it's me, Gino B. Barry, buddy, let's crush it this weekend. Good luck to all of you, and we'll see you again real soon.